Welcome, meat eaters and vegans, all the like. I've done a review on Ed Winters before, and I'm doing one again. I'm Epic Vegan Power. We're debunking meat eaters on a daily basis, if possible. I've said that Ed Winters is a little bit weak because he's not pressing on the TV, the commentator, or whatever the guy's name is here, Andrew Doyle. He's never pressing the interviewer. I mean, I haven't watched a video where he's pressing him, the interviewer, which is okay. It's fine. It is different ways to convince people to show that veganism is good, and Ed Winters has his own way, which can also be criticized, whatever. But let's see if we can find any logical issues, any problems with what Ed says and what the interviewer says.
Coming up on the show tonight, vegan educator Ed Winters will be here. He's going to tell us about his new book, How to Argue with a Meat Eater and Win Every Time. Lewis Schaefer.
That's very good, yeah? Because having this book gives you some tools to argue against meat eaters, which is very good, yes. I salute. I agree with that. Do more books on this. I don't know. I can't write a book, so I won't be doing it.
Schaefer cannot wait for that one. Ed Winters is a strong advocate of veganism who has become a best-selling author, a hugely successful public speaker, and a content creator whose videos have been viewed millions of times. Known as Earthling Ed, he has spoken at a string of top universities around the world, including Cambridge and Harvard, and his short film Milk, about the reality of the dairy industry, won an award this year. And his debut book was a bestseller. His second is How to Argue with a Meat Eater, which will be released later this month. And Ed Winters joins me now.
And win every time. He forgot that.
Welcome to the show, Ed.
Thank you for having me.
So let's start with Chicken Run 2. Right. So this is a new film that's come out. Now, apparently, it is about chickens being rescued from a, well, I suppose, a battery farming situation where they would eventually be turned into.
I watched Chicken Run back in the day. It was a few years ago. And yeah, I liked the film, but it didn't make me have the connection. Like, you feel for the chickens, but it didn't help me to make the connection and go vegan.
Nuggets. I think the subtitle of the film is Dawn of the Nuggets.
I think that's right, yes.
Yes. Do you think that that film is going to encourage more children to turn off meat?
I mean, I think there's a good argument for it, but there again, Chicken Run came out 23 years ago or so, and was a similar theme. So I'm not necessarily holding out hope that it'll change lots of minds, but I think it'll influence people into hopefully thinking a little bit more deeply about the.
Maybe, yeah. But if you watch Disney films, also Disney different, but they have many films where the animal is very important in the movie, and which I appreciate very much. But then there's still this connection missing, you know, where you have to make the connection. This animal has a life; it's important. It has the whole adventure. It has family. It has kids, stuff, this and that. And then to make the connection, but it's the same for this animal that I'm eating right now, and I don't want it to suffer, to feel harm, to be abused and misused, and to infringe on its rights.
The origins of their food.
I mean, is the problem that's just people think the taste is too good?
I think taste is the biggest driver.
Yeah.
Taste.
There's 4 big drivers. Yeah, taste, commodity, like being comfortable, tradition, and education.
Habit, culture, I think all of those things are the biggest driver in why we continue to harm animals.
Habitual, yeah. It's habitual, it's traditional, it's comfortable, and it's tasty.
Unnecessarily.
Yes. Now, in a way, I'm playing devil's advocate here because I am a vegetarian, but the point is...
He's vegetarian. You could press him on his position if he's being vegetarian, but press him on his position.
A lot of people will say, well, we have evolved as omnivores. You know, we as a species eat meat.
Why don't you take your own arguments for being vegetarian? Don't have you never thought about that? Why do you have to like present some bogus arguments that most of the people would say.
And vegetables, even the formation of our teeth is related to that. So why should we go against our nature, I suppose?
Well, many herbivorous animals do have canine teeth. Now, I'm not saying that we're strictly herbivores necessarily, but I do think we have choice in the...
Yeah, Ed Winters is very educated. He has an answer for everything, which is very good. I appreciate that very much. He knows how to debunk every argument, which is very good. Just he could also be pressing, pressing on the morals. I don't necessarily know if he's gonna make more friends doing that. Doesn't matter that much because, but it's his way of doing it, which is fine too, of course.
Evidence seems to suggest that quite strongly. So I think that when we look to our history, we've been opportunistic omnivores. We ate what we could to survive. But now we live in a time where we have nutrition information and we have availability and accessibility of all different types of foods. So we actually have choice. And with choice comes the responsibility to make ethical decisions.
So what is your key
The responsibility, yeah. We have to act in an ethical way.
ethical argument? Is it really about animal rights?
Yeah, I mean, the reason I went vegan and the main pillar of veganism which I promote is that of trying to reduce animal suffering and death. Because what we do to animals for food...
Reduce animal suffering and death. Yes, but we still cause like unnecessary, yeah? You could add unnecessary abuse and use and death of animals and suffering.
We don't have to do. You know, we put 90% of pigs in gas chambers in this country. We take babies away from their mothers. We macerate newborn babies.
He said that. He said, go back. We don't have to do.
And to reduce animal suffering and death. Because what we do to animals for food, we don't have to do. You know, we put 90% of pigs in gas chambers in this country. We take babies away from their mothers. We macerate newborn baby chicks in the egg industry when they're male. So we do a whole host of truly terrible things to animals. And the important thing is we don't have to do those things. So we should stop doing them.
So
we should, not only we should. Should is like a more imperative, right? We have to, we must. Yeah, it could be even stronger.
for you, an animal life is as valuable as a human life?
Not necessarily, but an animal's life is worthy enough to not...
That's always the bogus argument. It's the same value. No, it has the same right to life and the same right to not being harmed as a human. Yeah, it doesn't mean it's more valuable or has the same value in all the aspects. Yeah, a pig can't drive a car, so there's differences.
not be reduced to a meal on my dinner plate.
Now, it's interesting in your book. So your book is really about rhetoric. It's about persuasion. You're talking about how to argue with a meat eater.
Right.
What are the key elements of your book? Can you give us any of the tips? I'm not sure how many vegans watch.
It's good asking about his book. We want to know, we want to learn as a viewer, what are the arguments?
The show?
Well, I hope, yeah, maybe not so many, but the thing I always think is vegans often have an optics problem, right? And I know that viewers of this show may look at me as a vegan and think, well, a vegan activist, he's going to be judgmental and militant and forceful. And
it's okay to be militant and judgmental and forceful, because in the end, the meat eater has to defend his position, and he's not able to. And the vegan is the one not causing harm. So when you cause harm, you have to defend your position. Why are you justified to cause harm in this situation?
And so I know that vegans have an optics problem, and I think that actually the way that we can create genuine conversations is by meeting each other where we're at and dissecting each other's views. Because I don't think that the...
Dissecting each other's views, that's very good. Yeah, we have to dissect the meat eater's view and show him that his view is inconsistent.
The idea behind veganism is something that we're all at odds at. Everyone here says that we're against animal cruelty, but how about we put that into practice and say, well, if it's wrong to kick a dog, surely it must be immoral to force a pig into a gas chamber.
So that's...
I like him for saying that. Yeah, so he's appealing to our moral imperative of caring for the animals, not enslaving them. And so we have to, once we understand it, we also have to put it in practice. We have to align our deeds with our thoughts.
Threat of an animal.
That's a very interesting approach. So you take the view that, and you're right, there is a consensus, isn't there, people are always outraged when an animal is harmed. Remember when that footballer hurt that kitten,
Absolutely.
for instance. So it's just a consensus.
Yeah.
So you can start from that point and sort of bring it out a little bit. But ultimately, will people be open to persuasion? Because it's such a big sort of established way of life, isn't it?
I mean, it's a hard task, don't get me wrong. Sometimes it feels like I'm, rolling the rock up the hill to roll back down on top of me again. But I think ultimately people are well-intentioned. They do care about animals. And it's just about encouraging people to think more deeply about their food and to connect with the animals on their plate. So it's a hard task.
He is right about that, yeah. Making this connection is not very easy sometimes. You have to be presented with the facts, with someone who's pressing you, and then you're like, oh. And for the people that really are very susceptible to making the connection, yeah, then it helps for them to being confronted. Yes, in my case, I came all alone on this path. I asked myself, well, I have to question myself. Yeah, am I doing this right?
But change is happening, and I am confident.
So when you talk about the perception of vegans, right? Now, I think you're right. There have been, I've seen some evidence of very militant vegan behaviour, and I think a lot of people are concerned because it comes across sometimes as a bit authoritarian. In other words, the choices that they make about their own lifestyles, they want to impose on everyone else. Do you think that's...
Yeah, there's laws. You're not allowed to go around killing people. Yes, so you shouldn't be allowed the same way to go around killing animals.
Right.
Well, I don't think that's actually the case. I think vegans can be very, vocal, we can be passionate, but we can't force anyone to do anything. The decision that the audience makes tonight when they have dinner or breakfast tomorrow morning is a decision that they make. However,
there's still no laws against eating animals. So we want the top-down solution, but now we also have to push the bottom-up solution, like trying to convince or influence people to go vegan on their own and not wait for the top-down solution. Yeah, we're not abstaining from killing other people just because there's laws. No, we understood it, and then the law came.
When we talk about authoritarianism being forceful, when we buy meat, dairy and eggs, we're forcing animals to have their lives taken from them, to be mutilated, to be harmed, to be forcibly impregnated. If you compare a vegan and a non-vegan, the non-vegan's far more forceful because a non-vegan makes animals, tens of billions of animals every single year, suffer terribly for the food choices they make.
But as a vegan activist, do you ever
That's good. Planting the bad conscience in the meat eater.
despair at some of the tactics of some of your colleagues? I mean, sometimes, for instance, Peter, I can see, can be quite extreme in the way they approach certain things, and they almost become self-satirizing. And I'm not sure if they're helping their own cause by taking that approach.
No, I think there are definitely some tactics which aren't necessarily overall helpful, but the word extreme is interesting. I think the language we use is quite telling. Again, I think to cause harm to someone else is the extreme position. And some tactics may not be very effective to everyone, but when we view these words and we look at the origins of them, we think about what the word extreme means. Well, it's far more extreme to force animals into gas chambers than it is to stand on the street with a provocative placard telling people to stop.
Have you had any...
He's completely right, yeah. So, and he's very eloquent and perfect English, which I admire. Yeah, I would like to have that same level of eloquence, which is achievable, of course, if I practice more. Interesting. Yeah, he's very good. He has all the right answers. I salute that.
Success in converting carnivores to the herbivorous life?
I mean, I hope so, yeah. I mean, I've had people signing up to different things, people leave me nice messages. Obviously, it's hard to get a true gauge of the influence that, we as individuals have, but certainly I think there's been a lot of changes, hopefully as a consequence of my work.
And is that why you've chosen to write this book?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the work that I do is centered around conversations, public speaking, and so I've had an opportunity to stress test a lot of my arguments, meet people from all different walks of life, hunters, farmers, ranchers, whoever it may be, and have conversations like what we're having now. And so it's really about putting that information into a book and hopefully giving it to a vegan or a non-vegan, and at the end of it, hopefully they have a more favourable impression of veganism.
Are you really going to miss this?
I'm very fascinated to see you talking to someone who makes their living from the farming industry.
Yeah.
And perhaps I should have invited someone from that perspective as well. But have you had many of those direct conversations, or is it mostly a kind of online thing?
Oh, I've had many direct conversations on TV, you know, on the streets and in different formats. I know I've had.
This interviewer, he's not even prepared. He doesn't. It seems like he doesn't know anything about Ed Winters, besides that he's a vegan.
Many conversations with farmers, some farmers who, you know, passionately disagreed, but we had good conversations. We met a lot of common ground. And also I've met farmers who used to farm animals who've now transitioned out of that. And so there is a little transition happening even within the farming community. And importantly, we can still have productive and effective conversations even with people who fundamentally disagree with us.
I think that's really important, to be able to disagree politely and to get somewhere civilly and maybe to end up persuading someone. But I just imagine...
Yeah, but how do you persuade, you know? You have to debunk the other's position.
Maybe it's my prejudice about farmers, but I imagine they'd be quite annoyed by you, and that they do get annoyed by vegans generally.
Well, sometimes, and I think it's understandable. I mean, vegans are in a way criticising what they do, quite passionately, of course, and we're asking for them to change. And so I can understand why a farmer might feel that way. But ultimately, what we all want, farmer, vegan, whoever, is a world which is, you know, more sustainable, where we can produce more food to feed more people at a more accessible and affordable price. And veganism is that. So actually, it's about encouraging farmers to reevaluate the way they look after.
Vegan is a consequence of veganism. Veganism is not about the farming and the stuff and the health and the environment. It's about the moral issue. But it's a nice consequence of veganism to have more affordable food and stuff.
The land, the way that they make their money, and ultimately we can create a transition to a fairer and more equitable food system together.
So what about the farmers who will say to you, but we go out of our way to ensure that the animals are only killed humanely and that they are looked after throughout their life?
Killed humanely. Yeah, explain to me what killed humanely means.
And that there's no situation where cruelty is exercised. I understand your point that in some circumstances there is horrible cruelty in abattoirs and the like, but some farmers will say...
So it's not cruel to kill someone?
Absolutely not. They do not do that. Do you accept that that's the case?
No, absolutely not, because the word humane means having or showing compassion or benevolence. Is it compassionate to cut someone's throat? Is it benevolent to force someone into a gas chamber and take their life from them?
Do you draw...
What was that sound? Did the audience laugh? Yeah, they didn't expect that, but yeah, that's a simple question. Is it benevolent to cut someone's throat?
Accept that that's the case?
No, absolutely not, because the word humane means having or showing compassion or benevolence. Is it compassionate to cut someone's throat? Is it benevolent to force someone into a gas chamber and take their life from them?
Do you draw a distinction, though, between some very bad practices in terms of the slaughter of animals and the maintenance of animals, and those who do try to pursue what they describe as the more humane approach?
Well, the legal regulated standards are horrifically cruel. They're the ones that allow forced mutilations, the impregnations of animals, the separations of babies, gas chambers. All of these things are regulated by law. Sure, on some farms there may be animals who are kicked and punched, but
I'm thinking of things like foie gras, and where that's a form of torture.
Yeah, but all animal products are a form of torture. When we think about what happens to these animals, when we look at the legal regulated practices, foie gras is terrible. But what we do in this country to the animals here is also terrible. The things that we do legally as well as illegally. So actually, I think that when you look at the word humane, what's more humane, to kill or not to kill?
How successful do you think you will?
Oh, the first question, finally. But this interviewer just debated. What the fuck? Why? He asked a question like, okay, but he asked a question, so this guy is supposed to answer.
Will be. I mean, where are we at the moment in terms of numbers? Like, how many? I know that there's been an upsurge of veganisms and people moving to plant-based diets. Do you have any sense of how much of an increase we've seen?
I mean, it's hard to know what population, growth is and different things. Generally, polling shows an upward trend. It's hard to know exactly what that translates to in real terms. What we are seeing, I think, strongly is an uptake in people becoming more conscious and aware. And even this word flexitarian gets bandied around a lot. I don't necessarily know how it applies to the everyday person, but what I think we are seeing is a growing shift towards people thinking more consciously about their food choices and ultimately making changes.
Okay, well, Ed Winters' book is called How to Argue with a Meat Eater, and that is available now, I believe. Is that right?
It's published on the 28th of December, but it's available.
Okay, thanks for watching. Yeah, it was an interesting interview. Ed Winters has always the right answers, but he's not pressing the interviewer, which would be interesting just to see how he does. Maybe I can find interview or debate or whatever where he does this. Maybe you know something. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.